Welcome to Rock Solid, the Round Rock Business Leaders Podcast. Join your host, Bryan Eisenberg, as he explores the journeys of entrepreneurs and companies across Round Rock, Texas. From startups and nonprofits to large organizations, each guest shares their passion for doing business in this thriving community. Let's dive in.
Hi, everybody. It's Bryan Eisenberg, and welcome to Rock Solid. I'm joined this week by Seth Flowers. Welcome.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here.
You know, your story is, and your resume is just a masterclass in boringness of businesses, invisible businesses for the most part, until trust breaks. And then you walk in and you tell us the story of your RV life. And it seems to mirror that exact same story. Tell me why you're so attracted and that your life seems to keep repeating this pattern.
Chaos is what it's called, utter chaos. And, you know, it really is that I am intrigued constantly by issues. And I have a unique ability to see the missing piece to a puzzle. And I like finding it, solving it, and then once the painting is done or the puzzle is done, moving on to the next project. And it's one of the things that's driven my life, but it's also driven my business. And I joke with my wife all the time that I don't have hobbies. She's got wonderful hobbies from gardening to sewing to all the wonderful things. I have business, and I love tinkering with businesses. I love solving the problems within businesses, and that translates a lot of times to my life as well.
Yeah, I mean, well, let's go into a little bit of some of the businesses you've been in. I know you've been in the insurance business. You've been in the knife sharpening business. Why don't you give the community a kind of a sense of, like, you know, obviously your background here in Round Rock, and then we'll
yeah, absolutely. So I started the business. I started in business in the Uniform and Facility Solutions business years ago, and I worked for a company that's been all over the news here lately with UniFirst, and I did the corporate thing and I loved it, but it had me moving all over the country. I was promoted over a 9-year time period. I was promoted 3 times to 3 different areas and moving my family from one place to the next. We landed in Round Rock when I left UniFirst and was able to go back into kind of restaurants where I got my start in my first job. And I love the restaurant industry, always have. And so we came here to Round Rock. Well, then they wanted to promote me and they wanted me to move again. And I didn't want to do that again either. And so I started my own insurance business. It was going really well, but it was like most entrepreneurs. It failed, was not a huge success right out of the gate. And so then I was blessed because I was a part of the amazing community of Round Rock. And I had some business here locally that said, you know, we would love to work with you. And I wanted to help them out. And so I went to work for them and got into the home services business.
Yep.
That's what spearheaded my own business.
Again, unsexy businesses.
You know, it is to some, but to me, it's beautiful because it's an industry that is so important to so many people because you're trusting them with a lot of money in your home.
Yep.
And a lot of people have been taken advantage of. And so I love helping business owners figure out how to do it the right way. And I did that for quite a while, but it's lonely. It's solopreneurship. And I realized about 2.5 years ago, I missed helping businesses by being a part of a business. And so I went back into the corporate world. I did 2 years where I went to work for a knife sharpening company and loved it. I traveled all across the country. It's funny, I was talking to the person that replaced me this morning that I led. I groomed him for the leadership role. And then I had a person that I've known for many years reach out to me as director of sales for Citywide Facility Solutions. And I get to now be director of sales for them and help them grow their business back here in Central Texas. And our office is right over in Cedar Park, but we help from Waco all the way down to San Marcos.
I want to dive into this chaos thing because, you know, having been involved with a lot of businesses myself, you know, from startups to the home care agency, to just, I think the world today, we're seeing a lot of chaos. And, you know, you've been behind the scenes and you've been in front of the house of, you know, sales, but you've also been on that operation side and the coaching side. What is the common theme that creates most of that chaos in these businesses?
I call it it's a saying that I've used multiple times. You can't read the label from inside the can.
I fancy it up a little bit. You can't read the label when you're inside the bottle. So I guess maybe you're going for the beer cans. I'm going for the bottles of wine, but we're on the same page here.
It's so true because I don't know any more about business than you do.
Mm-hmm.
But when you are inside the can, you're in the ingredients. You're mixing it in. You're blindfolded by all the rest of it. I can look on the outside of the can and go, "Hey, did you realize that somebody dumped a pound of sugar into you?"
Mm-hmm.
And they go, "What? No, they didn't." Yes, they did. And I love that because it uncovers something with business owners that it's not about me. It's not about my arrogance of saying I know more than you or anything. It's just able to remove something, and then you get to thrive.
It's a perspective because, as business owners, we get our own curse of knowledge. I always like to tell business, on the same vein, like, how many hours a day do you spend thinking about what's your business?
Yep.
Right. And they typically, if you're especially a new business owner, it's 20 hours a day probably thinking about their business because they're not sleeping well either. Right. And they're thinking about those problems and how to work with them. And the person who's buying it, if you're lucky today with AI, you might spend 3 minutes total, right? Thinking about it, finding a solution, and then giving you a call.
Yep.
And then you go in there trying to explain things, and you're completely disconnected.
Well, and it's also, even with AI, you've got to know what prompt to put into it.
Mm-hmm.
And if you don't really understand your problem because you're blindfolded to it and you don't know what is causing the issues, you don't know the prompt to digest.
Mm-hmm.
You don't know what to put into AI. And so it's so much fun, but it really came from failure. I mean, at the end of the day, if I didn't have good mentors and good support people in Round Rock that came alongside me when my business failed, that said, "Yeah, Seth, but."
Yep.
"Yeah, Seth, but." And then me be able to turn around and see a different perspective and go, "Man, how did I become so dumb so fast when I launched this business that I made such big mistakes?" And it's because I was inside the can. I was not able to see the different things that were coming at me because they're coming at you so fast.
Oh, yeah.
Your business is changing so quickly. I used to have conversations with business owners all the time about the weight of lying awake at night and knowing you may not be able to have payroll on Friday. That literally can cripple you.
Oh, yeah. People get stuck in, the urgent and not the important.
Correct.
And that's a real struggle. Let's talk about the weight for a moment because I heard you and I have something in common. We've both lost over 100 pounds.
Yep.
And that a lot of that comes from the weight of business, unfortunately. Yes. What was your biggest lesson learned in that weight loss that you've applied to helping businesses?
Oh, man. It's that you can fix the problem and still have an underlying problem.
I like that.
And not even know it.
Yeah.
And so you lose the weight, you make a few changes, but then you still got high cholesterol. Mm-hmm. You still are craving things that aren't good for you. And what I've really learned now, 3.5 years into losing the weight, is that there's a big difference between being skinny and being healthy. And so now I've made a pivot over about the last year and a half of, great, when you weigh 315 pounds and
I never got that big, but yeah.
And you get down to 200 or 195 pounds, you look really good to yourself in the mirror when you look in the mirror. And so it's like, but I'm still not healthy. I'm still not where I want to be as far as a health factor. Yeah, my clothes fit better. Yeah, I do all of these types of things. And it's the same thing in business. Mm-hmm. I was talking to a business owner just the other day that said, my business is failing because I'm running my business off my bank account. Mm-hmm. And I didn't realize that I had all of this accounts payable still that needed to go out. And so I really actually didn't have any money.
Oops.
And how many businesses run their business off the bank account versus off the P&L? Because the P&L is your blood work, it's your health, it's what you are. Working in the franchising world for as long as I did, I learned a lot of times that people got out of corporate world, they bought a franchise, And they got out of the corporate world because they didn't want to do all the crap they hated anymore in the corporate world. And I said, well, what is that crap that you didn't want to do? Well, I didn't want to review any reports anymore. Well, you do realize now
it's totally your ownership of it.
You have to review reports.
Yep.
And I would laugh and say, what made you successful in business to get you to the point where you could afford a franchise, you could afford to start this business, is that you got up every morning at 5 o'clock in the morning and you reviewed your team's reports. You reviewed your marketing reports. You reviewed your P&Ls. Now you're not doing that because that's what frustrated you, because a boss was yelling at you about reviewing your reports. And now you have no idea what's going on in your business. So the reason your business is failing is not because of you or your skill set or your talents. It's that you're not doing the work that got you here. And it's the same thing with your health. If you lose weight because you start running or you start lifting or all of those types of things, but you don't ever eat healthy, eventually your body is going to adapt.
Yep.
And you're going to put weight back on and you're going to not be as healthy as you should be. And so you've got to do it all. It's not a one thing.
Well, even if you do it all, so I lost 100 pounds in my 30s.
Yep.
By my 50s, just a couple of years ago, about 60, 70 of it came back and realized I had some health challenges, even though I thought I was still doing a lot of the right things. And I wrote about it in my last book. And yeah, it is a story that you have to tell yourself about how you're living, about why you're doing it, that really fundamentally drives everything. And you know, talking about the stories, you know, many people have that story about wanting that romantic life of RV life. Okay. And you guys bought in, your wife and you were super excited. You said your son graduated high school here in Round Rock and you decided to have that RV life, but somehow the reality and the dream somehow didn't quite match up.
Did not.
Let's share that a little bit with everyone, because I know lots of friends who have that dream. I mean, Bill talks about it. And I think even this morning, just in a couple minutes, you dissuaded him from that. Share, please.
So we were RVers. My son's middle school years, we traveled. We went to Grand Canyon and you know, all of the different types of national parks in an RV, and we loved it. We were weekend warriors in an RV, and it was great. And so my wife had a dream, and she wanted to travel and sell the house and sell all the things and get rid of all the things that tie you down. And so we did. We took the leap when our son graduated high school and said, we're doing it. And life really hit. And when you become flexible, you become flexible. And so we ended up traveling and taking care of people that in the family that got sick and ended up passing away. And so it went from traveling to California and working from the beach in your RV to traveling to Belton and working in an RV resort with a bunch of military personnel that are there for 2 months.
Santa Barbara, Belton.
It's close.
Yeah.
And so, you know, it wasn't what we wanted, but at the same time, it did make a lot of difference in our life. And that was that we were tied to possessions and the house and all of those types of things. And by getting rid of them all, we were able to just kind of live the life we want to live.
You shed the weight.
We shed the weight. Yeah.
Yeah. What's the weight that you see most business owners carrying around today?
Really, it's expectations. You said it about the RV. You paint the picture of the expectation and it doesn't align when you really get into it. And you're afraid to realign your expectations. With the RV life, we thought it was the RV life we were chasing. We were really just tired of being tied to possessions, being tied to a house, being tied to a bunch of stuff, being tied to the maintenance of a yard and a pool and all of the stuff. We were really just tired of that. And so the RV life was a pivot, and we thought it would be the expectation that we wanted. Well, it wasn't. So we quickly pivoted. I've seen that with businesses.
Yeah.
I talked with a former friend that was not ever a client, but she had built a very large business and ended up selling it, made a great living selling the business. But I remember talking to her and she said, it became something we never wanted it to become. It became this massive thing. And if I could go back to where I just ran 10 trucks and I knew all my team members' names and their kids' names and their spouses' names and all of that, I would have never sold it no matter how much money people offered me. But the expectation she had set was she was a growing business. She always had to grow. She had to reach new peaks. She had to reach new things. And she never pivoted.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's like, just pivot.
I mean, that was a story of my weight loss. So when I lost 100 pounds, I had grown an agency. We had taken it public. It was in 2008, which will be very relevant also for our next guest. But maybe if you stick around, you hear some of that.
Yeah.
And I had ballooned up to 277 pounds. And swallowing all the weight of, all the efforts and New York Times bestseller and traveling all over the globe. And it was a lot. And I didn't realize it. And my middle son started playing t-ball and started getting more into baseball. And I was like, okay, I had another one on the way. And I was like, how am I going to keep up with my kids? Right. And at 277 pounds, I was sluggish and tired. And I just couldn't do it. So I got focused, 10 months, lost 100 pounds. But I never realigned the story because you know what happens with kids after about 18, 15 years? Like they grow up.
Yeah.
And they don't need you to keep up with them anymore. They're out in their own cars. That same middle son who was playing t-ball just bought his own nice truck this past week. Like that changed.
Yeah.
But my story hadn't.
Yep.
And until I realigned that story, I couldn't get my health back in order.
Yeah.
And I think that's the huge advantage of bringing in a great mentor, bringing in a great coach, is that, like you said in the beginning, they can help you see that perspective of where was that passion come from? Where did that story come from? That really fuels you forward, because if not, it can feel like a big burden. You've got rent to cover and payroll, and it becomes crazy.
You just gave me chills. I've been mentoring a young man that has a company that he's running, a maintenance company for gym equipment. And I remember him sitting across the table from me probably about 5-6 months ago. And he said, Seth, I thought all these problems were my problems. And I thought no one else. And he goes, I was terrified to share them because it meant I was a failure. And I think as business owners, everyone does this. You do it when you're weight. You don't have conversations. Mm-hmm. Now with GLP-1, I still talk to people that they're like, I'm afraid to tell people I'm on GLP-1. Quit. Like it's part of your story. Mm-hmm. Tell your story. Whatever helps you get there, be authentic. Be who you are.
Mm-hmm.
And what happened is over the last 6 months, I don't know anything about gym maintenance equipment, but I know the problems he's going through in his business because we've all been through them. I've worked with hundreds of business owners that are going through the exact same problems.
Yep.
And to see that perspective of I'm not alone, this isn't a self problem, this is a common problem. All of a sudden,
just in a different mask. That's all it is.
It's all it is.
Yeah.
I heard a story the other day that it's like when you were a kid and you were hitting a piñata.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes the first kid never breaks the piñata.
No.
They bring in a new employee. They bring in a coach. And then who gets to hit the piñata at the end? The birthday boy. The owner's always going to get the ultimate reward.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to bring the birthday kid back up to break the piñata.
Mm-hmm.
So you're going to get to see the candy and you get to benefit from the candy, but you don't break it on the first few swings. And how common is the piñata story on business that if you just could stare at the piñata and hit it with a bat, you could break it in 10 swings.
Mm-hmm.
But you can't because you put a blindfold on, somebody spins you around and disorients you.
Yep.
And then they expect you to hit it again.
Mm-hmm.
And you can't. And that's what owning a business is. You know what it's going to take to own that business. You know how to run that business. And then you take the leap. Somebody puts a blindfold on. Somebody spins you around in a bunch of circles. And you can't even find the piñata to whack it anymore. And that's what a mentor, that's what a coach, that's what a community like Round Rock surrounds you on. If you're willing to be authentic and be vulnerable and talk to people and say, I got the opportunity to tell a business owner just the other day that they believed in me when no one else did.
Mm-hmm.
And that's because I was vulnerable with them and trusted them. And they helped pull me out of a very dark place. Be vulnerable with people.
I couldn't agree more. I mean, same story. Yesterday, young man and his wife came to me a while ago, struggling in their business, and I saw them yesterday at Startup Day. And we had hundreds of entrepreneurs this whole week between the Round Rock Chamber ran Founders Forum and 1 Million Cups and co-working at the Chamber, and then Startup Day with the pitch competition. And he came to me vulnerable and said, "Hey, I'm struggling. I've paid for crazy coaches. I've done all of this. I've had the same coaches as this successful person, and I don't understand why I'm struggling and they're not." And I just started asking him some questions and just getting him back into that realignment. All of a sudden, he's busy again.
Yeah.
Imagine that. Just getting that little bit of clarity can change your life.
It's trust too. He trusts you.
Correct.
And so he was willing to listen to you. He was willing to hear your questions, be vulnerable. I will tell you, if you're hiring a coach, if you're trusting a mentor and you don't really trust them, don't spend the money. It's a waste of money. You're not going to listen to them. You're not going to hear them. It's not going to be worthwhile. And you have to trust them. And if you do spend the money with them, trust them. Let them listen to them. I've had some pretty big businesses that have paid me significant amount of money. And then 3 months after I left, they took everything right back to where it was. Don't.
So the reason I stopped consulting to a lot of big companies is because a big company paid us ridiculous sums of money for the amount of hours we spent, for the value we gave them, not a question, okay? We got them a ridiculous lift in the, their revenue. Like, we'll talk about it after camera. And literally their new CMO came in and said, "Oh, that's not going to win us any awards. Forget about the revenue. They cared about the awards."
Trophies.
And basically wiped that whole thing out. It's like, nope, that's not how I do it. And so that one-to-one coaching, that entrepreneur, that business owner, that's who we loved helping, because they get to call the shots, they make the decisions, and they can make the choice to, hey, I'm going to leave that RV, not going to be in there, I'm going to rent a new apartment, and I'm done.
And they have to make the decisions quick too.
Yeah. You did that all in a week. That's the whole point.
Within a week. It's and that may be a downfall to me, but it's also been a huge part of my success is I will not delay in a decision.
I have found in all my history that the most successful entrepreneurs are the ones who just continually take action. We had that conversation with Cam Hauser here on the podcast as well. If people want to take action and reach out to you, they maybe have some more questions for you, find out more about maybe not taking that RV life. What's the best way for them to find you and reach out to you?
So on LinkedIn, Seth Flowers, you can find me there. You can reach out to me via email, seth.flowers@gocitywide.com. And I love helping people. I love helping businesses grow. I love this community and always will.
Well, we appreciate your time today. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Bryan.